Welcome in to 11 Personnel presented by Monticello Bank. I'm Nick Roush. He's Adam Luckett. If you haven't checked out Monticello Bank, check them out online, mbcbank.com for all your banking needs. We got a little home shopping coming around the corner. They can help you get a great rate on your next loan. Got a project maybe you want to put in a pool? You can also open up a home equity line of credit with Monticello Bank. Monticello Bank, it's where people matter. There's a location near you. Come see about it. Visit them, nbcbank.com. Monticello Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender, and proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Mr. Luckett, long time no talk.
I think I was on this channel. No, I'm doing like 3 shows a week. I feel like Bill Simmons or something.
Yeah. And at least, we're keeping it fresh. A lot of different stuff to talk about. And in the Kentucky football world, this is the lighter time of year. We might keep this one a little bit tighter than the normal hour kind of rants and ramblings that we do here on this show. But we're still going to talk Kentucky football because when times are rough, that's what the people need, right? You're looking ahead to spring practice, which is about a month away, give or take. Luckett, we got a date for the spring game. April 18th. It's back.
Well, does that interfere with your Thunder over Louisville plans?
Well, about that. Not Thunder over Louisville, but because Thunder is great for different ages, right? Our kids are really too young. That's a late night. One of my friends, they would have
7 to 10 honey hole.
Oh, yeah, just right in the sweet spot. Maybe even up to 12, but they're probably getting into trouble once they get into.
Yeah, by the time they're 12, they want to go hang out with their friends or do stuff. But 7 to 10,
yeah,
that feels like the Thunder honey hole. They're big enough where they can hang out for multiple hours.
Mm-hmm. Keep themselves busy.
Yeah, no fits. Yeah, 7 to 10 feels like the honey hole for that.
So we haven't reached that yet. We'll have a friend who lives near the river. We'll go to watch the air show, and that's good enough, right? You kind of have a backdoor party. You're playing games. You see a plane overhead. That's a good time. But my friends and I, about September, we're like, we got to get a golf trip together. We've been talking about it. We need to figure out a date to do it, and we even talked about Masters weekend. I know some people will do they'll pick, this was a fun format. You pick a Masters golfer to be with your score for a round. And that's, right. So
big weekend like that. It's not that bad though. Cause you can just, if you get the tech in the cart, you can just play it on the radio while you're playing, or if you have an iPad, have it on. And you can watch the end of the round when you finish or whatever at the clubhouse.
We kicked that around, but it's also dangerously early for a golf trip in Kentucky,
Yes, you never know. Right.
Maybe let's try Thunder. I know how much difference does a weekend make, but we're not big Thunder guys, so let's do it that weekend. I was like, yeah, and in my mind, I thought if Kentucky does a spring game, they're definitely doing it Masters weekend. They're not. So, you might be recruiting somebody to join you in the press box for that.
I'm going to have, double dip. Kentucky plays, I believe, Vandy that weekend.
That's a big series.
It could be a big series. We'll see how that season's going over at KPP. But yeah, also interested just what it looks like. Is this a simulation of last year? Are teams going to have real spring games like they've had in the past? And according to John Hill's reporting, there's like a bunch of beams sitting in the concourse at Kroger Field because they're ripping out the bleachers on the visitor side of the stadium in the second deck. So what do they do with all those? I guess will be interesting to see. But and I'm expecting that game to be at noon though, Nick. Typically they're 2 hours, like those spring games,
right?
Noon, and then baseball starts at like 2. Noon, 2, boom. That's your day. That's what my expectation is going to be for how they kind of handle that.
Yeah, and I know Stan said at his introductory press conference, you only get better at football by playing football. But there is a little bit of maybe only like one or two series of playing football before you kind of reel them back in and you get everybody out there unscathed. I don't think we need to talk about injuries right now. This fan base is a little. I mean, we got some injury fatigue right now, so don't need to talk about managing that risk. Um, we're at a point right now, Luckett, in the recruiting calendar where everybody's lining up visits,
Yep.
and I even forgot who the name was because there's so many at this point. But now, like it used to be, most official visits were taken that second weekend of December or so, right? It was the weekend or two before when the early signing period first started. You would kind of try to backload your official visits, try to get one last swing at them to lock it up, signed, sealed, delivered, spank it on the bottom.
Yeah. Yes.
That lasted a year or two, maybe, before they started creeping up into June, July. Initially, it was a lot of stuff like game weekends, but coaches didn't really like that because they didn't get
Yeah.
to spend
My
time.
day, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was that on the weekend, you would go on a pick a game weekend, and then it
Mhm.
was December, right?
Yes.
They would have visits on the weekend, and I believe they would have in homes at that time too, like during the week.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
OVs on the weekend, and then you had like I think January for a time for like a month or a few weeks, it was a dead period, and then when signing day came, I think that's how it worked back then.
Mhm.
But
And
the summer stuff was you really didn't do anything in the summer recruiting wise.
it was just the camps. Kids would show up to camps, and a lot
Camps,
of times,
yeah,
like that was where you started getting sort of committable offers. Coaches then had the chance to actually verify what they saw in person. Um, they weren't willing to take risks until they saw you work out. That happens less and less. It still happens at some of the big schools, right? I mean, we've covered recruitments where kids are trying to get offers at Ohio State, et cetera, et
well,
cetera.
yeah, like the back half of the Ohio State class, typically
Mm-hmm. These kids
it's
that
all
test well.
they get them on campus and they verified them. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
But that
There's
that
a lot of
is
borderline guys that have gone. Some have gotten like Brody Lennon, tight end
yeah.
recently. And some CJ Conrad, tight end that didn't for whatever reason get the committable offer. So it goes both ways. But yeah, I mean that tale as old as time. That's happening still to this day.
But now we have them not only in the summer, because that's where the majority of right, like scheduling an official visit for June, scheduling it for the last weekend in May. Um, we got one. Some of them are telling us their spring plans, like kids are going on spring break, so they're touring college campuses on official visits. There was one I even texted Wiltfong. I was like, is this right? Did you mean to write official visit? And it's like, yeah, the official visit, April 11th. Okay.
That's
All right then.
well, they did that last year. Remember, Terry Wiggins was early. I believe Oscar Rios did his in April. Wiggins ended up committing to Penn State.
Yeah, I
And
remember Rios now. I thought
yeah,
that was May, but even so, it's one of those, oh, okay, all right. So things
here we go.
are creeping up
Yeah.
sooner and sooner and sooner. If you want some more recruiting talk, by the way, we did chat with Walt Fong yesterday, so go check that out on the KSR YouTube channel. Got some great feedback there. Are there any other recruiting things you would like to dish on before we get into the meat and potatoes of this week's episode?
June 19th, Nick at Brady Hull locked in his OV for that weekend. That scene, we don't know how it's new or whatever with this new staff, but typically like you get the commits one weekend and that's kind of your big
Bash.
recruiting weekend. I think, let me see, Andre Adams, who's kind of like I would say the favorite in the clubhouse QB wise. I believe he maybe has his locked in for around that time. I'd have to double check on that, but like I
Tristan
think,
Hughes was, I think, one of them for that weekend.
yeah, Tristan Hughes is committed to Syracuse, but Kentucky is very active with him, and they got a
So is
really good chance with him.
Louisville's in there too.
Yeah, Ohio kid
Yeah.
there, so that'll be interesting. Syracuse actually on the spreadsheet they had about 3 guys committed, and I don't expect any of them to sign with Syracuse. So, You mentioned Hughes is one. Krumity was a receiver who just decommitted, I think, this week at Kentucky's in on. He just scheduled an OV to Vandy. But yeah, that's pretty much, the big one. Seneca Driver is the one we're watching to see when that happens. But yeah, visits are happening. Israel Abrams is a quarterback June 19th with the OV locked in with Kentucky, kid from Chicago.
I think there's about 5 for that weekend. So
yeah, so that's to me that looks like the big kind of weekend, and Kentucky's got, I think, a nice board here built, and it's visits in April will resume and see what they do and see if they can get some momentum there. You're gonna want to have that quarterback, I think, locked in by the time those June OVs arrive.
Right.
So just seeing where these quarterbacks are kind of tiered on their board, I think that's something we'll find out over these next couple months. And so that's where we're all at, and there will be a wave at some point, and that should arrive soon. Hopefully there's a couple waves here for Kentucky. Hopefully they have a spring wave and then that big summer wave. And then if you get those two, you'll have a pretty much 90% of your class there, and that's where you want to be, I think, going into the season.
If you want to ride a wave of winners, then you should do it with BetMGM. Luckett, he might be doing a little dabbling in person this weekend, but you don't have to go to Las Vegas to get the BetMGM experience. You can just download the app, BetMGM mobile app. It's very easy. Go to your app store, download it, put in the bonus code ON3 when you sign up, and new players can get up to $1,500 on your first wager in bonus bets with BetMGM, plus 50% off an annual subscription to the On3 network. Just download it, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. If it wins, it wins. But if your first bet loses, you're going to get all that back in bonus bets, up to $1,500. Just make sure you use that bonus code ON3 when you sign up. This is a great time of year to start maybe lining up some of those college basketball future bets. There's awesome games happening every night. Make sure you're in on the action with BetMGM. Make this March Madness one for the history books. Make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. That first bet offers for new customer only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. All right, Mr. Luckett, you pitched this idea. So I'm going to set up the tee, and T-ball season is right around the corner. Last day of signups was today. So I'm ready to put the tee down. Now you go ahead, swing away. If you hit the tee a couple times, I'll put the ball back on. Don't you worry, brother.
Are we betting Scotty Scheffler top 10s blind on Fridays yet?
You should.
Should we? Should we be betting Scotty Scheffler top 10s blind on Friday? I haven't seen what he's doing today, but it's absurd. It's just absolutely absurd.
That Sunday was nuts. Climbing all the way back up and then eagling on 18 to tie top of the leaderboard.
Just absurd. But anyway, the basis of this, Nick, is Kentucky just went through a tumultuous season. A lot of downs.
Yes.
A couple ups. Didn't think there was, everyone wanted a change. Logistically, it didn't seem like they were going to do that unless we got into a DEFCON situation. They got into a DEFCON situation, had to pull the plug, coaching change, and then everything that comes with a coaching change. Riding the carousel, riding the assistant coach carousel, then portal, then, guys making decisions whether to stay or go. And then now it's just been it's been a wild ride. Like on the beat is a wild ride. And I think this just in general, this is a good way just to look back at the season, just where, especially for us. Our job is to cover this program and just kind of keep you and the listeners in tune and inform you on stuff you don't know or stuff you forgot about, or explain to you why certain stuff is important, why maybe certain stuff isn't important. So my general thought with this exercise, Nick, was just let's just look back at like really I wanted to do like the last 4 months, but then I sat down to do it today and I can't do it. Like we've got to talk about stuff that happened before, October. So basically I just this is almost like a year in review.
Mm-hmm.
And then what this tells us, maybe how should that change our viewpoint for this team going into 26 and more big picture, just this new kind of regime going into this year. What are some from this exercise? I think there's some checkpoints that we can create of, okay, this is what they need to do to be successful. This is what they need to maybe avoid to have the same problems I think that the old regime ran into, specifically over the last 2 years. So that is my thought.
Well,
and so that's what we're going to do here tonight.
I think the other part too is, especially KS Borders, the red flag thing is a bit of an inside joke on there now. But how do you know it's a red flag? Well, history tells us that if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then A, B, and C will happen. And so that's kind of where I think what you're getting at is like, hey, if this is smelling funny, well, there's a reason why. And, we don't have to belabor it a lot, but I mean, SEC Media Days podcast from last year. Like
number one, let's start off.
That's just
balls on the tee. I mean, I'm hitting a beach ball here.
Yeah.
SEC Media Days as its construct, its bloated kind of version. Typically, we don't get anything from it. I remember leaving this one with you and Stephen Peak after we paid $800 in parking fees to the good city of Atlanta. I think I remember I felt like it was the least amount we ever got from one of these events. There wasn't a big pop moment. It was kind of boring, but there were two schools. You left that saying that was weird. One was Auburn, Hugh Freeze, and the golfing.
Yeah.
The second was Kentucky. Most of Kentucky was with, I think, the local. It was just weird. Right? Like the whole no headlines thing, and then just kind of like acting like that was not what you're doing when it's obvious it was what you're doing. And then, motivated, all of that. I think my big takeaway from that, all it was is like Media Days, you're really not going to get anything out of it. And there's no real sign that a big year's coming. You're not going to get that from that event. But I think what this year taught me, what I can get from that event, if things are weird or the vibes are really off, specifically for coaches who and you've been around in the past, then they're probably going to be real off. And like, honestly, I did some digging on this. Like it was the weird parts that I just talked about were weird, but honestly, the strangest thing from this event came from this quote. I think Stoops told Peter Burns on SEC Network at the event when they did the little hits. I don't know what they're picking up on. I think he asked him about the motivated Mark. I don't think there's ever been an offseason where I haven't said that I'm a little juiced up, a little motivated, whether we won a bunch of games or in this case, coming off a difficult year. You know what I mean? I think whatever. When you come off a season like that, you've got to be, resilient enough to take a few shots. People want to take shots. Take shots, man. I can handle it. I've been around a long time. It's just a weird way to package it going into a critical year.
Well, it's like we were prepared for all of the changing culture, getting more like the kind of stuff that you just use in marketing to try to inject confidence. And there was nil, not NIL, nil, nothing, none of that. It was just, we're staying the same. And like, even if it's a load of crap, like that's a way that that was out of the ordinary. What they did was out of the ordinary. And I think the part that, so looking ahead, what's Shane Beamer going to be like at this? Because he feels like the most pressure cooker situation. I thought it was fascinating that Sellers was the 5th choice to win the Heisman going into last year at 17-1, and now he's 40-1. And so Is it weird if Beamer is more reserved? You know what I mean? Like that's the part that like if he's not doing the normal Shane Beamer, I don't know, Gene. Like if he's not doing that, that's something that should have our spidey senses going off.
Well, I feel like with Beamer, he's more prickly, like with the local media,
True. And
where
he
he
gets all
gets
kind of all shucksy with the national regional guys. Yeah.
it, even like the stage, like the main ballroom. Does he get prickly? That would be to me. That
Mhm.
would be like that's different.
Yeah.
So but the lesson in that was to me, if something is weird and off at this event, at a coach that has like done this, so like their routine,
Hmm.
and it just feels off, then something's probably off with
Yeah.
that's a sign. So that was my big takeaway from Media Days. And some might be asking, why are we doing this? Stoops is gone. Let's turn the page. I just think it's important. Like this is a big tentpole event we go to every year. And it's a way to kind of get a read of a program and of program health. And that early read we got was not a good one, and it turned out like that was a sign
Yeah.
of things to come.
It's true. It's true. All right, Mr. Luckett. I've got some later ones. I'm curious what your next one's going to be. Is it the Ole Miss game?
I've got one before that. I got
Okay.
another summer one. It's recruiting literally is the lifeblood. It's your blood pressure as a program. It's what runs everything. And if it's not in line, it can get, it can really
Throw everything out of whack.
and
Yeah.
it's not going to hurt you right away, but down the road, it's really serious.
That's
If
a
you
good
don't,
way to put it. Because, I mean, I even was talking to one of my friends who, I mean, he was getting migraines and stuff. And it was like, well, your blood pressure is out of whack. Like, everything is sort of connected to that.
well, they call
So
blood,
that,
it's like, don't they call that the silent killer? Isn't blood
yeah.
pressure? To me, it's kind of like that. And I think for most fans, you don't really, I mean, you're following it, but you're not. I think the hardcores on like KS4 that follow it day to day, like that's very rarity. Like we cover it, but to really follow it, I do believe it's like it's the blood pressure of your organization.
Mm-hmm.
And now everyone's different. Like Iowa State and Matt Campbell, they're not recruiting like an SEC team. Their recruiting operation is different, but it is effective for kind of how they do it, right? Iowa and Kirk Ferentz is a little different. How you recruit is different at each place, and how Kentucky recruits and how they are effective or need to be effective is different than in Auburn or a Florida. It's just every place is different, so you got to have to figure out your niche and kind of work it that way. Kentucky found one early in the Stoops era, and I think that really led to good things. But it's just a sign, like if it's bad, like it's not a good sign. Something is wrong here. And I think this past year is just a perfect example of that. Right? It's just like there was no buzz, nothing. They had like 3 commitments going into the summer. I think in hindsight, they kind of there was probably some overpaying going on to get guys committed, to build some type of class. And they were saying things that I don't think Stoops would have ever said 5 years ago, or doing things I don't think they would ever did, which was basically like tap out on Kentucky, tap out on Ohio, and then just JUCO it. Let's JUCO it because that's what we need to supplement the roster.
That was because for that Ole Miss game, they had a decent visitor list, right? They had Dayron Parks in, and you understood why it was down. I mean, Vince left right before all of the official visits started, which, I mean, we were shouting canary in the coal mine, right? Like as that was happening. But they ended up getting some guys on board, and you're like, okay, well, maybe if they can work to flip some guys, like this Parks guy, he could be the perfect example. The pivot to JUCO was one of those that, like, you don't want to just go out and say in our jobs, what are these idiots doing? But we were thinking it, and we were like, and we're using very cagey language to say, well, this is certainly something. Like it was like.
Well, I think we even said I think we even said it. I think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake to go down this route.
Yeah.
I think I even presented it as this is why they're doing it, but it's a bad idea.
It's not making a good idea.
And so I think it's, but
well, because after that Ole Miss one, like because I'd get some visitors list and stuff like that. But that just didn't happen anymore. I mean, they weren't even bringing kids on campus, and I think you
Right.
said it previously. You're like, you don't want to say, like, it's very damning to say that it's coaching staff is punted on recruiting, but you're punting on recruiting.
Well, and also optics wise, it looked like they just kind of let go of the rope, and then they won some games. It's like, oh, we better like sign some players here real quick. Like
Yeah.
that's what it looked like from the outside looking in.
So we get to the Ole Miss game, the aforementioned Ole Miss game, and surprisingly, that game was not really like it's what we thought the team would be, but the team ended up being nothing like it. I mean, you had two Ty Bryant picks early. You're playing from ahead. It's like, okay, well, the secondary was going to be the strength. They're giving the offense short fields. It might take Calzada some time to find a groove. Instead, it was almost a foreshadowing of, okay, you can't give this guy any more rope. He's got an injury. Let's give Cutter Boley a try. And I don't think any of us knew that Ole Miss was going to be a team that would win multiple playoff games this year. When we looked at the team, certainly in the preseason, but even in that game, I mean, Austin Simmons was not polished whatsoever. But that was the game where the things. I mean, wasn't that the I'll take a look at it game?
Mm-hmm. It was the procedure penalty game. To me, that game was.
It
was the Bush. It was the Bush Hamden plan. Our plan was to really doctor things up pre-snap, really a lot of motions, shift, try to confuse defenses in the pre-snap so we can win after the post-snap. Because in fall camp, it was basically like, yeah, we don't know about receiver. They're basically like, our receivers aren't very good.
Yeah.
So it was this plan of all these shifts, motions, all of that, and they basically just had to take it and light it on fire because it didn't work, and they had to really dumb it down and really simplify it. And I thought you saw that simplification play out when Cutter got in because they tried to make it, as easy and as simple for him as possible, just so he could come in, play fast, and play with confidence. But that was really because that was what that game. Remember that people were booing because they couldn't get locked up.
McDonough was making fun of him.
I forgot about it. Yeah, McDonough was joking in the box on ABC about it, and they got the game script. They got the perfect game script. Get an early lead. You've got the momentum. You have a chance, and they kind of let it go, and it was a disappointing loss. And to me, go ahead.
Well, the correlation I wanted to make with this, and maybe it's later on, but I think it's applicable here because they have to pivot to Cutter Boley. Bush takes a look at it, has to change how all the pre-snap stuff, pretty much scrap a ton of it. Instead of trying to get the perfect play, just making it easy and letting them play. While you commend him for making the changes that he did to make it work good enough, Will Stein had his top three receivers get hurt and miss at least a month of the season, and they were all they were a little bit staggered, but I mean, they didn't really miss a beat. I mean, they weren't putting up 50 burgers necessarily. There was a couple games where it took them a while to figure it out. I think they also were dealing with some offensive line continuity stuff early on. But Stein just made Kenyon Sadiq the best tight end in America. Right? It was like, all right, you want to do that? Okay. We'll give it to Sadiq. Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I have a lot more faith in that if the plan doesn't go according to plan, that this offensive staff can do a much better job of not just keeping the boat afloat, because that's what Bush did, right? He kept the boat afloat. This thing is still going to be better along with Will Stein in charge.
Yeah, I think that's why Stein got hurt. I mean, at the end of the day, he's not calling plays or whatever, but it's his
His
offense run through his vision. So like, like Indiana, that's the Sig's not calling those plays, but like it's his offense through his vision offensively. So yeah, the buck stops with him to me. I think we've even talked about this offensively. He's got a play caller and all that, but this is his offense, and he's going to be heavily involved, I would assume. And so yeah, I mean, that's why you hired him, because of just offensively, it was such a slog. I mean, it was almost a grind to get first downs.
And we don't have to go back through the history of how they handled the quarterback situation, but then you just go into South Carolina game. Boley had one tune-up, and it's he gets lit up and the game's over in 2 snaps, right? Back-to-back snaps,
right? And if funny part about that, if you just punt those 2 plays, like you just said, if you knew if some higher being came down and said, Mark, you're going to turn it over here, they're going to scoop and score, or you can punt. Take your pick. He's punting every damn time. And so if they just punt, like that game goes to the absolute wire, and who knows?
Yeah, because South Carolina was bad.
It was the most like whatever offense makes that big mistake is going to lose this game. That's essentially what that game was.
And they had Lenore Sellers at quarterback in Kentucky.
And the game was at their place. Yeah.
Yeah. Boley was in his first SEC start on the road.
So, but to this point, one thing we know about Kentucky, Nick, both from when we were fans growing up watching this team and then what we've seen in the media, there's only been a couple teams that have had good seasons that got to slow starts. Like, getting off to a slow start is not a recipe for anything good here. Because for a long time, it was always that Louisville game. That Louisville game was the big circle game.
I think there's one exception, and just one. 2016.
To me, the only ones are, I think the only ones you can argue are like 06.
Yes. They turned it around after the LSU game.
16.
Yep. And that was the Southern Miss loss.
And 19.
Right. And Bowden ball experiment works.
But all those teams I just mentioned scratched and clawed, and I mean scratched and clawed to get to 7-5.
Well, and it's inspired another one, but I'll add that later to when we get to that point in the season.
So for Stein to have success, I think, or any coach really, I think you got to look at that schedule and what do you have to do to get some momentum early, and that's why this year's tough. You look at the schedule. It's Bama week 2, and I think they go to A&M week 3.
Yeah, and then you got a USA team that isn't a pushover. It's not exactly an easy kind of get right reset game.
So when you're looking or trying this is that lesson to me. When we're trying to project, because at some point, if Stein works, they're going to get into a year and they're going to have the roster built where they can go, where they feel like they can go win it. But in that year, I'm going to look at they need to have the schedule where they can get off to a fast start, because at Kentucky, the teams that have had the best years, it's been the fast start. Like 18 and 21 are obvious. They get 5-0, 6-0, whatever it was. But that is the meal ticket for Kentucky at success. And I think I don't think it's crazy to think it's like that everywhere. But I think some programs have shown that they can overcome.
Well, A&M
Kentucky hasn't really shown that.
A&M last year, they win at Notre Dame, and then they get rolling, right? Like, if they lose that game, what does their season look like? I know their SEC schedule wasn't difficult, but, you could have seen them dropping a couple of those games instead they have 11-0 start.
It's just like Kentucky, say they, Calzada makes one of those throws, or Boley hits Willie in the end zone on that seed he throws, and they win that game. What is that? I think it might change the season in a serious way.
Well, the biggest game was that Texas game of how it changes the season, how you think about these teams. I saw Ari was fighting with Anwar Richardson, who covers Texas, over 9-win versus 10-win teams in the playoff, strength of schedule. I love that February's turned into, all right, well, everybody in college basketball is fighting over strength of schedule and brackets, so we should fight over it too. But when you go back to that game, Texas was really, really, really struggling. right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Caught him at the
people
perfect time.
people thought Arch something was wrong with him, and I think many of us, I joked, I was like, well, Kentucky's pass defense is going to be the perfect antidote for Arch Manning's success, but I mean, but really that game came down to a couple special teams errors, and then the one, I mean, this was like we knew it by this point in the game, but Kentucky relied on their misevaluation, and that was Dante Dowdell. I mean, that guy. It was kind of a running joke between us in the press box. It's just that guy couldn't break tackles. I don't know how he was so efficient in third and short at his previous stop, but like he just folded like a cheap tent when he got hit. And when they get down the wall on the first play and they're just like, damn it, we're going to give it to him 3 times. They're like, well, we paid for this big SOB to go get us in the end zone here. But like they went back to sticking to the plan. They were misevaluating off the jump, and they didn't trust their eyes when they saw what they saw in practice and on the field. And that to me was the biggest red flag of just like how are they going to work if you're going to this over and over. It's one thing for quarterback, there's a lot to quarterback play that I'm not going to pretend to try to be a master of, where you can buy stock into certain traits, assets. You can pick a lot, nitpick in a lot of places to buy into somebody. But this was the most glaring example for me of just like how it's one thing to get it wrong, but then to get it wrong and stick with it. Seth McGowan went to the damn hospital during the game and came back. And that tough SOB, you don't let him get a chance after Dowdell just keeps getting stuffed in short yardage situations. Like, I know they ended up doing some more fancy stuff later on in the year that worked, and it was crucial in that Auburn game. But like, that was just, I mean, it ultimately cost Stoops his job. You win that game, you're going to a bowl game. You're still here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just it's snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
I mean,
it was highly frustrating, and I have one that goes kind of hand in hand with that.
mm-hmm.
Streaks can be an anvil, on you, and that was, to me, that was kind of that game. You had that long losing streak. I mean, I'm really glad they won that Florida game.
Yeah,
because I would have hated. Because we would have just had to talk about it. If Stein would have inherited this long losing streak and your first game's against Alabama at home, like it was just such a dark cloud I felt, and it just hung over them. And I think you could feel it in the fan base. And really, it didn't really, I think, ramp up until this year. Like, Ole Miss happens, and then how Texas played out, and then Tennessee. People were furious about. It was just a long time between home wins. Those streaks, to me, they could just be an anvil. And even like the 2 touchdown or less thing, right? Something so silly, but it became a thing. It was like, well, they scored 17, the game's probably over. The other team, and it's a terrible way to, like, for your team you root for to go in if you're a fan thinking, yeah. We'll see. If they score 3 times, we're toast.
Well,
and that was pretty much
the Vandy game, right? Like that was the Vandy game where I was like, well, Vandy's up 14-0 ball game. Like,
yeah, it's just such a hard way to live and to digest it and to go about this. So, like, I think those streaks really hurt them this past year. It was just a huge weight on them. And I think you could just feel it and you could just sense it.
Yeah. Thank God it's over. We've got a couple more left. We're going to let Cole fuel us the rest of the way. Friends of Cole, Kentucky.org. You know about Friends of Cole. You see the license plates. You see the bumper stickers. Visit them online. Friends of Cole, Kentucky.org. Cole is resilient, reliable, and affordable. It's been a key part of our state's past, and it will be in the future. Visit friendsofcole, Kentucky.org to learn more. Shout out to our friends at Friends of Cole. We are friends of Cole. Shout out, Friends of Cole. All right, Luckett. So they lost that Texas game, but won at Auburn, won on the Plains. That never happens. You go home and you beat Florida. And this is the lesson that I learned, because we let ourselves get a little excited. And with everything that we said at the time, there was the caveats of like, well, Auburn's a mess right now. It got Hugh Freeze fired. Florida's a mess. Florida got fired, but they still got good players, and you got to commend Kentucky for rallying the troops. In our line of work, it's really easy to, like, those are easy stories to write when players are talking about how the lessons they learned to overcome adversity, and you feel like this team has turned a corner. That you can only do that so many times. That is going to be what sits with me most, because they didn't have one more in them. They only had those two rally the troops moments. They didn't have one more in them against Vandy. They didn't have one more against them against Louisville. And I think this can be applied across sports, particularly to this basketball team. Now, I don't think it's one size fits all either, right? And the example I want to use is actually the 2011 Final Four team, because they were close in a lot of games, but it's in the SEC, it's on the road, and they just couldn't execute in late game situations. They get to the tournament, they start executing late game situations, right? That's the difference. For this Kentucky football team, the most recent one we saw at least, like, they scratched and clawed for a couple wins, but when they lost, it wasn't even close, right? I mean, they got the backdoor
ugly fast, yeah.
Yeah, they got the backdoor cover against Lane, and he apologized. But for the most part, like, when the wheels fell off, buddy, it was worse than that Indy car that just went poof, right? I mean, and so that is well, it was saying when they're trying to tell you who they are, believe them. And even when you have those moments, I got to remember that when November rolls around, like probably who we thought they were. And those were more of an aberration than anything, right? Like, you can only scratch and claw back if you've been that far out. So that's one that at least I will try to sit with me. And it does feel good to say this out loud, like it, because, like, you know, I've done this a long time. You've done this a long, like, there are certainly things that I hear younger people say that I'm like, that sounds like something I would have said when I was, I've seen one more football. I kind of feel like so it feels good to say this out loud. So shout out to you for this exercise. Sorry, I kind of got long-winded there.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think specifically in college football, and I think football in general, it's a hard sport to play, short season. You only got so many games. And, like, at the end of the season, whether you play high school, college, or in the NFL, end of the seasons are effing hard, man. Tired, sore, your body's just worn down. You're just trying to get to, especially when you're not having a good year. You don't have really all year of football. You have the season to look forward to. You always got something to look forward to in football. And then, but when the season's almost in and you're having a bad year, it's like the worst. Like, it's hard because it takes so much, like, mental fortitude, I think, to just, be like the typical lunch pail type person or organization that you want to be, but it's easier said than done. So I think, like, obviously, things are going bad early. I think it's easier to rally the troops because you got to, one, like, it's a pride thing. Like, guys, we got to play these games. Do you want to just get your teeth kicked in for the next 2 months? Or do you want, so obviously it's easier to do it then. But I think, like, once you play so many of those cards, I think you maybe get 2 of them a year. Mm-hmm. It's hard to keep doing that. And for Kentucky, like, I mean, I'm not ready to be there yet, but maybe losing to Vanderbilt, like, that's a mental block for them. It feels like to me. It's ruined their season 2 years in a row.
And the way that they just had to sit and watch little Diego Pavia have a party.
Two different ways. Like, the first one, he gets banged up and just kind of grinds them through it. And the next one, he comes out and he's looking like Peyton Manning.
But that touchdown pass, that had to be so deflating. That bomb to is it Trey Washington?
Richardson. Yeah, the double move.
I mean, And that was the game too, where you're down all those corners and you're playing a bunch of backups. That's at that point, it's got to be hard to get up off the mat. Cutter Bowley's getting his helmet ripped off and his head's all sideways like that.
Yeah,
Whew.
yeah, and just that was tough. But to me, like you, to me, I go back a little bit.
Okay.
I think this is a two-sided kind of coin here, right?
Okay.
Helmet logo wins still matter.
Yeah.
No matter what kind of season you're having. Like Kentucky beating Florida like they did, I don't care. It hits different for people here at Kentucky. They just matter. You can
Yeah.
argue why they shouldn't matter, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but they just do.
Yeah.
They hit you in the feelings, and they hit you. The nostalgia gets you, and they just matter. But for Kentucky, like it also like the Louisville game, like it matters, but then it doesn't matter if you go and lose to your rival by 1 billion points. And it's good to see, like to me, that's still there. That's still a big sticking point for not only like fans but administration. Like you can't.
Yeah.
It's we throw out the word acceptable and unacceptable too much.
Mm-hmm.
Following sports ball these days,
Right. Right. Right.
but that really is that's a true thing. You cannot sit there and get your brains beat in by your rival. That's just not going to fly in this
2 years in a row.
specifically in this sport.
Yeah.
Right. Like Purdue just got their stuff kicked in by Indiana expectedly. Like if that happens again, it's going to be hard for Odom to succeed there.
Yeah.
Full stop. Like if they get their stuff kicked in 2 years in a row by Indiana, I don't think he's going to work there. Like those games they have the weight of like 7 games to me. Those games
And
that
was and we saw it the other way too when Stoops was on his best run. I mean, he was beating Florida and Louisville regularly. I mean, how much
like he's
fun?
giving you a helmet logo and beating Louisville. Like for Stein to succeed, right, and to have success here, something he has to do if you're making a checklist, beat Louisville consistently and get some of these helmet logo wins. And basically what I'm saying is beat some teams that are brands, like that big brands, and also teams Kentucky has struggled against historically. So Florida and Tennessee are the two big ones.
If you go out and beat Tennessee playing their game, like if you out Heupel, I mean,
like if you outscored them, yeah. If you won a game like 35-31 or something, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like that would.
You would be making a syrup statue the next day on KentuckySportsRadio.com.
I would just be dancing. Just the rapid reactions would be. We'd have. I'd be making my own AI and sending them to Vol and Angel and all those anonymous
Vol and Angel
accounts. But who's the guy?
They are making. We need to restart retweeting them because they are making.
Yeah, they're really creepy.
AI kind of videos from rapid reactions of me and Nick Roush of us. It's basically they turn us into singing Rocky Top.
Yeah, or like one of them, I was boxing Drew. That was weird.
We were crying on one of them. I think one of them you're crying and I was hugging you like to console you.
The crying one was
like
good.
3 different shapes.
It reminded me of the filter where they're just like,
yeah.
Oh man, are we ready to move into the off season yet?
Yeah, I've just got one more, but I'll let you go on yours, whatever you have here for the off season.
I think it's hard to do a lot of judging on portal acquisitions from this one on how Stein's going to operate because of the double dip. So my first lesson is immediately like whatever happened this one is not indicative of future performance in my mind because the holes they had to fill, right? Like, are there going to be as many moving forward, particularly when some of the offensive lineman guys have multiple years? So like, I can't use a lot of performance in this one when like Stein wasn't here, like how they had all those guys that first weekend. Part of why they did that is because that was the weekend Stein could do it. That was the like 48-hour window we had. So that's one lesson. But I think the more important one is just look at who he hired first. Pat Biondo was on the plane with him as GM. We don't know much about that guy at all. He's going to play a significant role in Will Stein's success or failures. I know that that's a big talking point for the basketball program right now, and Mitch Barnhart says it's just semantics. I'm telling you, whatever that guy's doing, we don't know. We have a decent idea of kind of how the sausage is made to an extent of how they want to operate, but he's playing a significant role in that facility. And then the other ones were is that he brought his offensive line coach with him. I think that, like, when these offensive coordinators come in, like, that's the one guy that's their guy. And I'm glad they got their guy, and I'm hopeful and optimistic that this guy is a rock star and Cutter Leftwich. You see the potential there. And if Stein trusts him, then I think that could be exactly what this program needs.
Yeah, I think I kind of just put it in a huge bucket. Modernization comes for everyone. You know, in all sports, you just kind of got to adapt, right?
Mm-hmm.
NBA, they started shooting threes and playing more tempo. You've got to shoot threes and play with tempo. And that's seeped into the other. Like in the 2000s, all right, they're running spread offense and it's dumbed down. Either we can sit here and cry about it or we can change the way how we play defense to try to slow it down. Or we can embrace it if it's working offensively. All these things happen in all these different sports, and they have short shelf lives, but you have to ride the wave when they're here, and you've got to be able to pivot, adjust, adapt, and maximize these kind of angles to the best of your ability. Leverage them as well as you can. So modernization comes for everyone. And like I've talked about this, when Stoops first got here, he modernized Kentucky football recruiting. Kentucky did not recruit Ohio.
No.
Just didn't. Why? I don't know. But they could never do it. They could never figure it out. They would never do it. And it was a huge void in their efficiency model. Like, it was going to be hard for them to be efficient as a structure if they didn't, when the age where high school recruiting was how you got players and you didn't use this honey hole. Cincinnati's an hour up the road. It's just, you're not going to be able to be an effective organization if you can't tap into that, take advantage of that. So Kentucky, like Stoops comes in and he modernized kind of the recruiting operation. Most of it was Ohio. But then also I think for Kentucky, the big thing was they won some battles in like Alabama, in Georgia, they went head to head with SEC schools. It's not like top of the line targets, but you can go down there and go toe to toe. Like, you can win some. You got to pick your fights, but you can win some. So, and then also the recruiting room is what was a big thing back then, but just kind of modernized it. But eventually it needs to be modernized again. Like, you buy an old house, you have to modernize it. But when you sell it in 30 years, the new couple that comes in and buys it will probably want to modernize it. Like, time comes for everyone. You just have to change things. And now we're seeing Stein and them come in and do their version of modernization. He's coming from the new age, right? Mm-hmm. Oregon, Dan Lanning, how they're operating, how they're using a GM, the structures, the processes, how they're putting all that in place, how they're building a personnel and scouting staff, that apparatus, how that's going to operate, the pyramid, the working pyramid, who's under who, what job titles are who, all of that. And so that's something I think the old staff, they didn't really know how to do. No. I don't even think, and like with Mark Pope, does he even know what he wants that to like? Because everyone says hire a GM, and like that's right. All good and well, but you have to have a plan and a structure built for it to work. Like, if you just say, here's your GM sticker, fix my roster, like, it's not like, there has to be structure in place. And I think Kentucky, they have that with Stein. You're seeing that, I think, play out right now. In like how it works, we won't really know till 3, 4, 5 years down the road. But I do think you have to be pleased with some of the early returns of just how they're doing it, how they're working. And then just like Stein, he's an active head coach recruiting. Kentucky, Stoops did more of that at the start. He kind of got away from that. Mm-hmm. But this is different. So you just have to be able to modernize. You have to adapt. And at some point, if Stein's here long enough, he's going to have to adapt to whatever the new age is coming next down the chimney.
There's There's no doubt about it. It's different. It's exciting. We may not know the exact like who's responsible for what at all given time, but the organization is in place, and it's with a lot of high potential guys. So it's exciting. It's exciting. It's an exciting time to be a Kentucky football fan. We hope we gave you a couple of reasons to be excited. Do you have anything else you'd like to get excited about, Mr. Luckett, before we get on out of here in do-si-do?
That's pretty much it. Again, I think it's a good way to look back, and I think we leave this exercise having some like core tenets of things Kentucky, like what Kentucky needs to do to be successful, what this new staff needs to accomplish to be successful. And now we'll see if they can go out and accomplish these things. But right now we're in the honeymoon phase, right?
Oh yeah.
They don't have wins to sell, but they don't have losses working against them right now. And so how can they make that count in recruiting? They're at 2 commits right now, and they're in on some good targets here, and we'll see how they can close. It's going to be a fun, eventful offseason and spring ball. I mean, they'll be starting here in a couple weeks, Nick. So actually get some real football to look at, and that'll be fun because that'll be new. Just how we don't even know how they're going to structure practice, or how we're
going to talk to them,
how we're going to talk to them. But like, what does even a spring look like? Like, what does spring game look like? Is there anything we can take from that? Like, there's just so much new, and we're all trying to figure out how they move and how it works, and then we're going to figure out how what kind of how in-game decisions, what's going to be a philosophy, how aggressive are they going to be, all of that. And so it's like we're opening a gift, and it just we haven't even got to the halfway through with our present opening, and to see what surprises there are in all of that. And heck, I don't know the faces yet, right?
Oh yeah,
I got the names. Like, I'm going to go to that practice, and I'm like, who's that?
We've got a lot of questions about when spring practice starts. There hasn't been any official announcements, but that second week of March, is that conference tournament week?
That would be, yes. That's SEC. Yeah, all conference tournaments start that week. Yes.
Yeah.
March 7th is the last college basketball regular season.
Got you. Yeah. So conference tournament week per usual. So month away or 3 weeks away. Be here before you know it, folks. It will be here before you know it. We appreciate you hanging out with us on 11 Personnel, as always. If you haven't already done it, subscribe to the KSR YouTube channel. Help our pal, Stephen Peak. He's the best of the best. He's staying busy, working overtime. Just all the shows, all the videos. He's got it for you right here. And subscribe to KSR Plus. Come join us.
He's our Stephen A. Smith. He's on everything, Stephen Peak.
Stephen A. Smith is in Ole Miss today. Why? Nobody knows.
Wait until you see that picture of him in the stadium if you haven't yet.
Oh, yeah, where I saw it. In the bad Photoshop on the scoreboard behind it. Very weird. Yeah. Something else. Well, hey, thanks for listening to 11 Personnel. He's Adam Lockett. I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.